2020 is right around the corner, and it has never been tougher to be an Arsenal fan. The past 15 years have had some ups and a lot of downs. Arsenal have gone from seasonal title contenders to Europa League regulars, playing teams that don't even exist. The situation at the Emirates has gotten so bad that the mentality and expectations at the club have reached an all-time low. And it has got Gunners worldwide wondering,
like where, how do we get right there? Like nah, who and what and where?
But really, fans are finding it hard to accept the club's situation. Arsenal's fall is not just down to one reason. It is a result of problems piling on top of each other year after year. The club has become a laughingstock and are in need of major surgery. But before that can happen, let's highlight where things fell apart for the Gunners. In 2004, Arsenal did the impossible when they won the league after going an entire season undefeated, earning them the nickname the Invincibles. 2 years later, Arsenal would move from the historical Highbury Stadium to the Emirates Stadium. Many fans look back at this change as the beginning of the nightmare. Arsenal upgraded on a stadium, and the new home was supposed to be a fortress. It was supposed to bring great memories and many more trophies. But instead, it took the club backwards and financially handcuffed the club from escalating along with the other top English teams. While rivals like Chelsea, United, and City were spending big to fight for the league, Arsenal were forced to depend on academy products. But this could never be the solution to their problem. Arsenal had to pay the stadium debt up until 2014, and the damage certainly took effect. Since the Invincibles in 2004, Arsenal have finished in second place twice, third place 4 times, and fourth place 6 times. Arsenal have become nothing more than a club fighting for top 4 every year. And as if things could not get any worse, the last 2 years has seen Arsenal finish outside the top 4 for the first time since 1996, as they finished 5th in 2018 and 6th in 2019. The last time they won an away game against a top 6 side was all the way back in January of 2015. 2015. It has been 5 years since they beat a top 6 team, and that very well sums up how tough times have been for the club. A year after the move to the Emirates Stadium in 2007, another misfortune struck the Gunners, one they did not see coming at the time but has been obvious since. For a good part of the century, Arsenal was owned by descendants of 2 families who had the best interests of the club at heart. When Stan Kroenke stepped in and bought the majority of the shareholdings in 2007, before later becoming sole owner, many expected this move to bring more funding and more financial backing for the club. Little did fans realize at the time that Kroenke saw Arsenal as a business rather than a football club. The Kroenke model is for Arsenal to be a self-sustaining club, meaning the club can only use the money that it generates, nothing directly from his pocket. While Chelsea have a proper owner in Roman Abramovich, who is just as much a football fan as he is an owner and regularly attends Chelsea's matches, Arsenal are stuck with an owner who runs the club all the way from America, who never attends the matches and has not shown any true passion and love for the sport and for the club. There was a time in world football where Arsene Wenger could do no wrong. There was no Arsenal without Arsene. Well, at least for a while. After arriving in 1996, Wenger orchestrated Arsenal's greatest period in their history during his first 10 years, where he won the league 3 times and reached the peak of the football world when he led the 2004 Arsenal team to an entire season undefeated. But the rest of his time with the club was a different story. With the arrival of Stan Kroenke and the purchase of the Emirates Stadium, it was going to be challenging for any manager to bring success for the club considering the circumstances. Wenger did well to keep Arsenal competitive in the Champions League, but as the face of the club, Wenger became the punching bag for many fans who took their frustrations out on the manager who was their hero for so long. Initially, Wenger's dependence on youth was out of need, with financial restrictions in place, but he later became stubborn in his overdependence on youth, even when there was money available for him to spend on proven talents. There is a stark contrast between Wenger's side from 1996 to 2006 versus Wenger's side from 2007 and onwards. Wenger's first side was everything the second side was not. There were several leaders in the dressing room from top to bottom, and they intimidated any opponent they faced. Wearing that armband actually had meaning back then. Men like Tony Adams and Patrick Vieira wore their armband with pride and true leadership. It might seem hard to believe considering the situation today, but Arsenal had one of the best defenses during Wenger's golden years. They had a crafty midfield that was also their pillar of strength, something they have lacked for many years. They had all the right tools to win a championship. Wenger forgot the type of personalities that brought him success by relying more on creative and finesse players that lacked leadership and discipline. And not to mention the inability to replace the legendary forwards Henry and Bergkamp after all these years of the players the club developed. Players' contracts were allowed to run down to the very last year, making the club powerless in negotiating an extension or agreeing a sale. Gunners worldwide will never forget how Robin van Persie was sold to their fierce rivals Man United, only to see him lift the title in his first season and return to the Emirates with his new club as if he was royalty, receiving a guard of honor from his former teammates. Van Persie was not the only big player allowed to leave in his prime, with an exodus of several big-name players who joined rivals or other top European teams. And how did the club handle this? By recruiting cheaper and mediocre players whom the badge and the shirt weighed too heavy for them, and they simply were not good enough. In all honesty, Wenger was reaching his end at the club, and his vision and philosophy for the club had expired. He helped Arsenal to 7 FA Cup glories during his tenure, but that was not enough consolation as the Gunners continued to fall further and further behind their rivals, season after season. His stay was long overdue, and many fans turned against him for his continuing pursuit to turn the team's bad luck around. This created a division between the fans, with many jumping on the Wenger out movement.
What is he watching? What is he doing? I don't need to speak 8 languages, and I don't need to be the manager before to see that we're a fucking shambles.
Do you know how bad it is? Last night I was chatting to my mum, yeah? My mum's Wenger in. Is she mad? Is she mad?
The only thing I've seen change is Arsene Wenger's fucking salary. The man takes us to 5th place and he gets a £2 million pay rise. Behave, will ya?
Finally, in 2018, Wenger left his beloved Arsenal with plenty to be proud of, but the latter stages of his stay slightly tarnishing his legacy. It was going to be difficult for any manager to follow Arsene Wenger's 22-year reign, as now former manager Unai Emery is well aware. The Arsenal job was simply too big for Emery, who initially showed some signs of improvement within the team. But over time, there just seemed no game plan and no identity on the field. Wenger had implemented possession football throughout his managerial tenure, and Arsenal became known for its attractive offensive style. Emery tried to modify the identity of the club by bringing a more tactical approach to the game, which backfired. A year and a half into the job, Emery finds himself unemployed, and Arsenal find themselves wondering when this nightmare will end. Going into 2020, Gunners will be hoping their former captain and new manager Mikel Arteta can turn things around and make Arsenal great again.